Happy Monday. Thank you for joining me for this week's Unlocking the Magic of Leadership. Now, this week we are back to the very first key: manage yourself first. It's so important when we're trying to lead others to understand that it starts with us. We cannot effectively lead others if we're not able to lead ourselves first. So what we're going to look at this week is overcoming leadership obstacles. So as you're going through and you're experiencing these obstacles, having some tools in your toolbox to better manage those. The first piece is analyzing obstacles to understand where are they coming from. So many times when we have an obstacle, especially if it's a repetitive obstacle, we slap a Band-Aid on it. We're treating the symptom. We're not treating the cause. And I can remember when I experienced this, I had just shifted over into restaurant management at Disney, and I knew that there was a problem with the ordering. The ordering system was broken, and so we would run out of products. But it hadn't been that big of a deal, and I didn't have the mental bandwidth to deal with it until it became a very big deal, and we ran out of hamburger buns on a Friday night with full capacity. And when I tell you that I got called every single name in the book that night, you know what? They weren't wrong. Because I knew that there was an obstacle. The obstacle was making sure that we had what we needed to run an effective restaurant. But I hadn't dealt with it. I hadn't analyzed it. I didn't understand the root cause. Afterwards, spent some time trying to figure out what it was, and I realized that the individuals that were placing the order were placing based on gut feelings versus using the data. And it wasn't their fault. Coming from a background of retail, I understood the software system better to be able to pull the data. It wasn't commonly used in the restaurants. And so once we understood that the root cause, the problem wasn't necessarily the ordering, the problem was the information they were using to order, we could resolve the issue. And so if you have an obstacle in place, spend some time analyzing that obstacle to truly understand what is the problem. Is it you have an employee that is driving your team insane? Okay, the obstacle is the employee. Problem isn't necessarily the employee. Are you having conversations, clear expectations? Are you holding them accountable? That could be what that root cause is. And once we know that we need to have accountability conversations, then we also have the solution. Now, the second tip is learn from past experiences and then apply those to the current challenges. Because this may be the first time that you have dealt with this, but it's not the first time that you've dealt with something hard. So you have survived every single bad day that you have experienced up until this point. One, you should be proud of yourself for that. But two, recognize that you have skill sets, gifts, and strength. Many times we get so locked up and we're like, I can't do this. Yes, you can. You've already done it. It may not be the exact same thing, but you've already done it. So spend some time thinking through those past experiences. In those times that you showed up and you were like, this is the best way that I could show up, what made that different? What was different about you that allowed you to show up in that positive way? What can you take from that to move forward to future obstacles and challenges? Understanding how you want to show up can be super helpful. You've heard me share this quote before. It's by Viktor Frankl. He was a survivor of the Holocaust, and he wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. And this quote is between action and reaction. We have a choice of how we respond. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And so there's this moment in time where we determine, who do I want to be, regardless of what's happening around me. And so thinking through and identifying who do you want to be can be helpful when you get into these moments that are high stress, high intensity, and high emotions. So learning from past experiences, what are those areas that may be harder for you? And what are those areas that are easier? What makes them easier? How do you show up differently? What steps can you put into place to bring that into the future? Now, the third piece is stay resilient. When we're going through these difficult obstacles, understanding that resilience is not avoiding hard things. Resilience is being intentional about how we move through the hard things. So practicing self-care, practicing resilience, maintaining a positive and realistic outlook for your team. Because if y'all are experiencing it as a team, they're going to be looking to you to determine, how am I going to respond? Is my leader flipping their wig? Well, if they're flipping their wig, I'm going to flip my wig too. Whereas, is my leader calm? Okay, maybe this isn't as bad as I think it is. You can have realistic experiences around these challenges, and that can help your team know what is and is not acceptable as they are going through this too. But the important part is to take care of yourself first, because if you're not, you can't show up in the way that they need you to. So stay resilient and use those areas of self-care that we have worked on in the past about how can you best continue to show up. All right, for the overcoming leadership obstacles, the 3 things we covered today is analyzing the obstacles to better understand what's actually causing it, learning from past experiences to better understand how you're going to show up in these moments and how you want to show up, and then staying resilient and maintaining a positive and realistic outlook for your team. I hope you have very few obstacles that you need this right now, but if you need it for the future, you have it. And have an absolutely amazing week. Don't forget, as always, you got this. I'll see you next time.